The applause was loud when my father stood up and said, "Imara saved this family." Everyone looked at my sister with admiration. I let them finish clapping. Then I asked one question, calm, direct. "Then who paid the $58,400 tax bill last April?" The room didn't respond, because I already knew the answer. The dinner was supposed to be a simple family celebration, but it slowly turned into something else. The table was full, food was served, and everyone was smiling. My father stood up with pride in his eyes and asked everyone to clap for Imara. He said she had rescued his construction company after its worst year. He spoke about her smart marketing ideas and the new branding campaign she created. He explained how she changed the company logo, improved the website, and brought attention back to the business. Relatives nodded with admiration. Some even said she had a natural talent for business. The story sounded powerful and clean, like a perfect comeback. But as everyone praised her, something important was missing from the story. No one talked about the government audit that had almost shut the company down months earlier. No one mentioned the official letters that arrived with warnings and deadlines. The company wasn't just struggling because of low sales. It was facing a serious financial problem that could have frozen its accounts completely. Yet that part was erased from the celebration. Instead, the narrative was simple. The business was failing, Imara stepped in with marketing brilliance, and everything was saved. My father repeated that version confidently, as if it were the full truth. With every sentence, the past was being rewritten in front of everyone. It was not just praise. It was a new history being created at the dinner table, and everyone accepted it without question. 6 months before that dinner, the situation was very different from the story everyone was celebrating. The company did not just have a slow year. It received an official tax assessment notice from the government. The letter clearly stated that $58,400 had to be paid within 30 days because of reporting discrepancies found during a review. It was not a small warning. It was a formal demand with a deadline. The notice explained that penalties would increase every single week if the amount was not paid. Interest was already being added. The longer it stayed unpaid, the larger the total would become. The letter also made something else very clear. If the payment was not received on time, the company's bank accounts could be frozen. If that happened, suppliers would not be paid. Employees would not receive salaries. Ongoing contracts could be suspended or even canceled. Clients would lose trust. Projects would stop immediately. This was not about branding or public image. It was about survival. A construction company cannot operate if its accounts are locked. Equipment cannot move. Workers cannot work without pay. Even one frozen account can create panic in the market. Competitors would quickly take over active contracts. At that time, the company was standing on the edge of a serious financial crisis. There were no applause moments then. There were no family dinners discussing strategy. There were phone calls filled with stress and silence after reading the numbers. The problem was simple and urgent. $58,400 had to be cleared before the deadline, or the business would face legal and financial consequences. Imara's marketing campaign later improved the company's visibility. It helped the public see the business in a better light. It attracted attention and gave a fresh image. But visibility does not remove tax penalties. A new logo does not pay government dues. Social media engagement does not stop account freezes. The truth is simple. Before the company could be promoted, it first had to be protected. And protection required money, not marketing. The call came late in the evening. My father did not call a family meeting. He did not put it in the group chat. He called me privately. His voice was not confident like it was at the dinner. It was tense and quiet. He told me about the tax notice and the deadline. He said the company did not have enough liquid cash to clear the full amount immediately. Payments from clients were delayed. Loans would take time. Time was something he did not have. He sent me the documents that same night. I did not answer right away. I opened every file carefully. I read the official tax assessment letter. I checked the reference number. I reviewed the breakdown of the $58,400. Base amount, penalties, interest. I even verified the notice on the government revenue portal to make sure it was real and not a scam. Everything matched. The deadline was clearly stated. The consequences were clearly written. There was no space for emotional discussion. It was a simple financial problem with a strict timeline. I checked my savings account. The amount I had saved was meant for my own long-term plans. Years of careful budgeting. Years of saying no to unnecessary expenses. That money was security for my future. But if the company accounts were frozen, the damage would be bigger than numbers on a screen. Employees would suffer. Contracts would collapse. The family reputation would take a hit that marketing could not repair. The next morning, I went to the bank and initiated the transfer directly to the Revenue Authority account listed in the notice. I double-checked the payment reference number before confirming. Once I pressed confirm, the full $58,400 left my savings account in one transaction. There was no announcement, no screenshot posted anywhere, no family appreciation message. I did not ask my father to mention it. I did not request repayment terms that day. I simply waited. 2 days later, the confirmation email arrived from the revenue office. Payment received. Balance cleared. Case closed. The risk of account freeze was removed. The penalties stopped increasing. The company was officially in good standing again. I forwarded the confirmation to my father privately. He replied with one sentence. "Thank you. I'll handle the rest." And I believed that was enough. After the payment was confirmed and the company was safe, I went back to my normal life. I did not tell relatives. I did not update anyone outside that private conversation with my father. In my mind it was simple. Family help is not a competition. If something needed to be done and I could do it, then it was done. I did not expect applause for solving a crisis that should never have become public in the first place. When Amara launched her marketing campaign weeks later, I supported her. She redesigned the company logo, improved the website, and pushed new advertisements online. The business started looking modern and active again.
Clients respondaient positively.
People began talking about the company in a good way. At family gatherings, relatives started praising her creativity and energy. I had no problem with that. She worked hard on her part, and she deserved recognition for it. At first, the story sounded balanced. People said the company had a difficult year, but things were improving because of teamwork. That version felt fair. But slowly the narrative began to change. Each retelling removed one more detail. The tax issue disappeared from the conversation. The financial risk was never mentioned again. Instead, the focus became one clear sentence. Amara saved the company. I noticed it, but I stayed quiet. I told myself it was not important. The company was stable. Employees were paid. Contracts were active. That was what mattered. If people wanted a simple hero story, maybe that was easier for everyone to accept. But over time, Amara helped became Amara rescued. Then it became. Without Amara, the business would have collapsed. The story no longer included timing, payments, or facts. It became a clean success story with one central figure. A singular hero. I never wanted attention. I only wanted accuracy. Yet every time the story was told again, my role disappeared further. It was not about ego. It was about truth slowly being replaced with something more convenient. And I kept telling myself silence was maturity. Silence was strength. Silence was understanding. Until the silence started to feel like agreement. The dinner was already full of praise, but then my father stood up again and decided to say one more thing. He looked around the table, at our relatives, at family friends, and said clearly, "Without Amara, we would have lost everything." The room became emotional. Some people nodded seriously. A few even clapped again. That sentence sounded powerful. It sounded dramatic. It sounded final. But it was not true. Lost everything was not a marketing problem. It was not about social media reach or branding. 6 months earlier, losing everything meant frozen bank accounts, canceled contracts, and legal action. It meant the company would not be allowed to operate. And that did not change because of a logo redesign. When he said that sentence, it did more than praise Amara. It erased the timeline. It erased the tax assessment letter. It erased the payment confirmation email from the revenue office. It erased the transaction receipt with my name clearly listed as the remitter. I remembered the exact moment I pressed confirm on that transfer. I remembered watching my savings balance drop by $58,400 in seconds. I remembered waiting for the clearance confirmation, because the deadline was close. That was the moment the company stopped standing on the edge of collapse. But at that dinner, none of that existed in the story anymore. My father did not say, "Imara helped rebuild after we cleared our debts." He did not say, "Both of my daughters supported this company in different ways." He said, "Without Imara, we would have lost everything." That sentence rewrote history in one breath. It turned a financial rescue into a branding success story. It turned a shared effort into a single act of heroism. And it quietly removed my contribution from the foundation of the company's survival. I looked around the table. No one questioned it. No one asked about the audit. No one mentioned the tax notice. They only saw the version being presented. That was the moment I understood something clearly. Staying silent before was patience. Staying silent now would be agreement. And I could not agree with a version of events that replaced facts with applause that I did not interrupt him while he was speaking. I did not raise my voice. I did not accuse anyone of lying. I waited until the clapping stopped and the room became quiet again. Then I spoke calmly. I said, "Can I ask something?" Everyone looked at me. I kept my voice steady and simple. "Who paid the $58,400 tax bill last April?" The number was specific. The month was specific. I did not speak in general words. I mentioned the exact amount. I even added, the payment with reference number ending in 7429. The change in the room was immediate. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was silence. A few relatives looked confused because they had never heard about a tax bill. Someone asked, "What tax bill?" I continued calmly. "The government assessment notice. The one that had a 30-day deadline. The one that said accounts would freeze if unpaid." Imara's expression changed first. She did not look guilty. She looked surprised. She turned slightly toward my father as if waiting for him to answer. It was clear she truly did not know the full details. In her mind, she had stepped in during a difficult year and improved the company's image. She believed that was the turning point. But she had not seen the notice. She had not read the deadline. She had not seen the penalties increasing weekly. My father did not answer immediately. He picked up his glass and took a small sip of water. He avoided eye contact. His shoulders were no longer as confident as before. The story had been simple when it was about marketing success. It became complicated when numbers entered the conversation. I unlocked my phone and said, "The payment was made on April 14th, full amount, direct transfer to the revenue office. No angir, no emotion, just facts." The conversations at the table stopped completely. Even the relatives who had been praising moments earlier became quiet. The energy shifted from celebration to calculation. People were no longer reacting to a hero story. They were trying to understand a timeline. Imara looked at me again, this time more seriously. "What are you talking about?" she asked softly. And in that moment, the tone of the entire dinner changed. It was no longer about applause. It was about truth. No one answered my question, so I did not repeat it. I simply unlocked my phone and opened my email. I searched the exact phrase from months ago, tax clearance confirmation. It appeared immediately. I tapped on it and turned the screen toward myself for one last check. The details were clear. Date, April 14th. Amount received, $58,400. Status, paid in full. Case closed. Under the payment section, my full name was listed as the remitter. Without saying anything dramatic, I forwarded the email to our family group chat. Everyone at the table had that group open almost every day. Within seconds, notification sounds began appearing around the table. One by one, phones were lifted. The email was official. It came directly from the government revenue office. The timestamp was visible at the top. The payment confirmation code was highlighted in bold. The transfer source showed my bank account name. There was no editing, no scrapping, no missing lines. My cousin sitting across from me read it out loud quietly. Payment received in full. Another relative scrolled down to the reference number and matched it with what I had just said. It was the same. April 14th, $58,400. Confirmation code ending in 7429. I did not explain further. The email explained itself. Imara kept looking between her phone and me. Her face showed realization, not anger. She was reading the timeline carefully. The clearance date was months before her campaign launched. The debt had been removed before the rebranding even started. My father finally looked at his own phone. His earlier confidence was gone. He knew the document was real because he had received the same confirmation months ago. But this time it was not private. It was visible to everyone at the table. The room stayed quiet, but it was not confusion anymore. It was understanding. The missing piece of the story was now visible in black and white. No raised voice could compete with a government confirmation letter. No speech could rewrite a timestamp. I placed my phone back on the table calmly. I did not accuse anyone of lying. I did not say, "I told you so." I did not demand an apology. The facts were already present, and facts do not need dramatic delivery. They only need visibility. Amara kept staring at her phone long after everyone else lowered theirs. She scrolled up and down the email slowly, reading every line. I could see her replaying the past few months in her mind. The campaign launch date, the website redesign, the first new client inquiry after the rebrand. In her memory, those were the turning points. That was when things started looking better. But now she was seeing something she had never been told clearly. The tax clearance date came before all of that. The company accounts were already safe before the marketing campaign even began. The crisis had been removed quietly without a meeting, without a public update. She looked up at my father first. "I didn't know about this," she said softly. It was not defensive. It was honest. Her voice did not carry anger. It carried surprise. And that was the truth. She was not trying to steal credit. She had genuinely believed that her strategy had saved the company from collapse. From her perspective, she stepped in during a difficult year, worked hard, and saw positive results. She connected the improvement in public response with survival. No one had explained the full financial timeline to her. For the first time, she understood the difference between visibility and stability. Marketing brought attention. Branding rebuilt image. Campaigns attracted leads. But none of those things can function if a company's bank accounts are frozen by the government. You cannot run ads if you cannot pay your employees. You cannot promote projects if contracts are suspended. You cannot celebrate growth if the company is legally blocked from operating. Solvency comes first. Reputation follows. Amara slowly placed her phone on the table. Her expression was no longer proud or defensive. It was thoughtful. She was connecting the pieces. The difficult year, she thought she fixed, had actually been divided into two phases. First, a silent financial rescue. Then a public image rebuild. She looked at me again, this time with clearer understanding. "So the accounts would have been frozen?" she asked quietly. "Yes," I answered simply. "Within weeks." That sentence changed something inside her. It was no longer about applause or recognition. It was about sequence. About cause and effect. About what truly keeps a company alive. In that moment, she realized something important. Her campaign helped the company grow. But growth only matters when survival is already secured. And survival had been secured before the spotlight ever turned on. After the documents were shared, my father tried to adjust the story in a careful way. He cleared his throat and said that the payment should be seen as a family contribution. He spoke in a calm voice, trying to bring balance back to the room. He explained that in families everyone supports each other, and this was simply one more example of that support. His words were meant to soften the situation and keep peace at the table. I did not disagree with him. I nodded and said clearly that yes, it was a family contribution. I never denied that. The money was used to protect the family business. It benefited all of us. Employees kept their jobs. Contracts continued. The company remained active. In that sense, it was indeed for the family. But I also understood something important. There is a difference between sharing credit and changing the facts. If the story had been told as teamwork from the beginning, that would have been fair. If he had said that different people helped in different ways, that would have been accurate. However, the version presented at dinner was not about shared effort. It was a full rewrite. It said that without Amara, everything would have been lost. That sentence removed the truth of the timeline. I explained calmly that recognition was not the issue. I did not need public praise. I was not asking for a trophy or applause. What mattered to me was accuracy. When numbers are involved, details matter. When legal documents exist, they cannot be ignored. A story can include emotion, but it must still respect facts. My father listened, but I could see that he was thinking carefully. He realized that in trying to highlight Imara's role, he had unintentionally minimized another important step. He had spoken confidently in front of relatives, and now the evidence was visible to everyone. The difference between marketing success and financial clearance was clear on the screen of every phone in the room. I told him gently that rewriting events publicly can create confusion later. People may remember the loudest version, not the correct one. If the company's stability was built on both debt clearance and branding, then both actions should be acknowledged properly, not one instead of the other. The issue was never about competition. It was about truth being presented in the right order. Accuracy does not reduce anyone's effort. It simply keeps history honest. The dinner did not turn into a loud fight. No one shouted. No one left the table. Instead, the mood slowly changed. It felt different, like the air had become serious. People were thinking instead of clapping. My father realized that the facts were now clear to everyone. Before dessert was served, he stood up again. This time his tone was calm and honest. He admitted that the tax payment had been made earlier and explained the correct timeline. He clarified that the company's survival was not only because of marketing, but also because the debt had been cleared on time. It was not dramatic. It was simple and direct. Imara did not react with anger. After the dinner ended, she came to me privately. She did not try to argue or defend herself. She looked thoughtful. She said she had truly believed her campaign was the main reason the company recovered. Now she understood that stability came first, and promotion came after. She thanked me for explaining everything clearly instead of turning it into a public conflict. That conversation was quiet and respectful. It was about understanding, not winning. That night showed something important. The company was still standing because different actions worked together. One person cleared the financial risk. Another improved the public image. Both steps mattered, but neither step alone told the full story. Success was not built by a single spotlight. It was built by timing, responsibility, and teamwork. I did not ask for applause. I did not try to embarrass anyone. I did not want attention. I only wanted the facts to match the truth. When the story was corrected, I felt calm. The goal was never recognition. The goal was accuracy. From that evening forward, something changed in our family. When achievements were discussed, people asked questions before making statements. They checked timelines. They respected details. No one rushed to give all credit to one person without understanding the full picture. The difference was clear. Visibility is what people see. Value is what actually keeps things working. And that night, everyone learned that both matter, but they are not the same.